Hey, Marvel fans, we are live from the Citizen Lounge here at New York Comic Con, and I'm Ryan, aka Agent M.
I'm Justin Warner, next to Agent M.
Yeah, he is, once again, and I'm so happy. We've got Rachelle Rosenberg, beautiful, wonderful colorist for Marvel. Your colors scream off the pages. I love your work, so good. What books are you working on right now? Like a million.
Yeah,
I know.
The easier question is, what books am I not working on? I'm doing the new Uncanny X-Men Disassembled, Sleepwalker with Todd Knock.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Todd is like such a detailed artist too. So, like we were talking to him yesterday.
Yeah.
And Chris and Chad, right? They wrote it, and they had him draw like a tidal wave of eyeballs, and I was just thinking, okay, so he's got to draw like 400 eyeballs. And then they're like the coloring and all that stuff, and like just the detail y'all have to put in those books.
Oh, I mean, I'm actually working on issue 3 of Sleepwalker, and in the script, it talks about Sleepwalker, how he goes through this tornado of Marvel comics. And Todd always sends little notes when he sends me the pages. And he was like, you able to like put in the, actual Marvel comics, like from the 1960s till current titles, on like hundreds of little pages drawn.
Wow.
In it like a tornado shape. So I'm like, sure, Todd, of course. I mean, I've got all the time in the world.
Thankfully, you can work digitally, so like you could probably blow it up, add little details that you need, and so
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, working digitally makes things like that much simpler, but it's definitely going to be a little time consuming.
Yeah.
So back on Sleepwalker, I got to say, when I like Sleepwalker, but it's not something that I would 100% just grab,
Right.
But there's something about the way the colors pop in that and the palette that I was feeling like, oh, it's talking to me. And I got to say, like, I don't know, there's something about the way that just popped off the page, and it felt like a mood, And I think that is so, that color is like so important in terms of establishing a mood. Can you comment?
I fully agree. To me, coloring isn't just about, coloring their costumes a certain way. It's about setting a mood. It's about helping tell the story. We have to create an environment that like draws the reader in and continues to tell the story the way the artist and the writer have begun to tell the story. So
Yeah. One thing that I don't think comic book fans always know, like they don't know all the process pieces, right? And so with coloring, there's something called flatting, there's different pieces. Can you do a little bit just to explain like what the process is for actually coloring a comic book?
Sure. Usually I get the pages from the editors, and they all come digitally. Once I get the pages, I have a company of flatters, so I send them out, and then they flat them. So what that is they take the line art, and then they fill in the shapes. So it's like coloring a coloring book. They just... and it can be random colors. It doesn't have to be anything specific. But what that allows me to do is take that page and select, let's say, Sleepwalker's cape. And if, let's say I color it red, and then the editor's like, oh no, it's supposed to be like, purple or whatever, then I can go back easily and select that shape and then change it to the correct color without having to recolor something. And that goes for the entire book. So like if I color something, if the sky is like a dark blue and the editor's like, it's not working right, maybe we want to go like a lighter blue or purple, I can just select that shape and then just manipulate the color because I use Photoshop without having to recolor the entire page.
Got it. Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh. So it's like, to me, like I'm very much a layman, but it sounds like the flatters kind of like put the numbers in the paint by number, and then that way, rather than having to do the whole thing, you can say like, I just got to do number 2. That's it. So repaint number 2.
So what they do too is, you have the whole comic page. Sleepwalker, they'll color his like face a certain whatever shade. Let's just say blue. I can go in and I can select his face once. It'll select all of his faces on the page.
Got it.
And then I can just color all those faces at the same time to help, the consistency of his face. So
that's cool. We had a question in here from social that asked, what advice would you have for aspiring artists, aspiring colorists who want to get into comics?
For me, it was really about networking and then just practicing and doing the work. I knew nobody in the comics industry, when I first started, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to color comics. So what I did was I, emailed and connected with artists whose work I loved and asked them for artwork, line art that I could practice on. And I would just practice. Right. And a lot of times they would be like, hey, when you finish, send me your colors so I could see. And so I would send them back colors, and if they loved them, they'd tell their other comic friends. And that kind of got my name around in the beginning. And so that's kind of how I got started.
That's cool. We have we have another question from social. They want to know which character is your favorite to color. So many C's in that sentence.
Oh, favorite to color? Off the top of my head, I love Phoenix. I colored Phoenix Resurrection, and that was kind of like a dream come true for me. I love to color hair for some reason. It's always like, a lot of times it's like flowing, and it's just really fun to color.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I get stuck with Matt Rosenberg too much, though. I don't know. Now you're working with him and some great people on Uncanny, but Matt's a troublemaker.
I know. And for the record, we are not married, not related.
Oh, wait, think about the last name? I've known Matt for so long.
I get that question so much.
Honey.
So much.
Oh, man. Yeah, do you have that sort of rapport with different artists? Like, hey, I want to work with this art, like this pencil or this ink, or vice versa. A pencil or an ink will be like, oh, we got to have Rachelle on this book.
Well, Todd Knock is one artist. He always requests me, and so I'm, always hopeful that the editors are like, okay, her schedule's good. She can color it. So, because I love working with him, I think we work great together. Yeah. I feel like he knows what I can do, and I kind of know what he likes. And once you work with the artist long enough, you kind of get a feel for what they're looking for, and it just makes the process so much easier. Sure. So.
Do you think about color in every aspect of your life? Like when you're eating, are you like, this is just not the right color of toasty I'm looking for. Like, I need to click up, I don't know, like, do you use hex colors or something? Like, I want this to be, because I am a very, neurotic person, and I generally work in food, and so I'm thinking about it constantly, all the time, as we're here, and I'm thinking about how the food could be better or worse, da-da-da-da. Do you do the same with color?
I'm generally a very observant person, and so, maybe not necessarily in my food, but I'm always observing the colors around me, or, if I'm watching movies or something, I always look at the colors they use to set the mood, and because I can kind of use those things to help me tell the story also.
Yeah. So. I love coloring in comics, and I think I first started to recognize a difference in coloring back when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and Valiant started, early 90s Valiant, they used different computer coloring for the first time. And it looks so different. Do you remember when you first started thinking about how important coloring in comics was to you?
I don't know. Probably when I started getting into it. Yeah. I traditionally started as an oil painter, so I didn't work digitally when I first started. But I started having babies and working with oil paints. You got the turpentine and everything, and so I started working digitally, just trying to recreate the painterly look in Photoshop, and that's kind of how I got started. And then you start to notice, when you start to work with something, or you buy a car, you're looking at a certain car, you see that car everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So when I started to work digitally, you start to notice more artwork that's digital, and you start to pay attention to, those details. And you can create some really great details and different looks. I mean, comics today they're all digital, but they're all so different in the way that they're colored. You have flat, you have super really painterly stuff. You can make it look like it was done, like, how they used to do in the olden days with like cutting out the little blotches and stuff. So yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think we're in a really great place because you have, someone like yourself, and then you have as well as Matt Wilson or Richard Eisenoff, and like so many people doing wonderful work, and you all have different, like, you look like yourselves, which I think is so cool. Like, have these bodies. How many books a month do you actually end up coloring, roughly?
Like 10?
Wow. That's a lot.
And it's 10 books a month, 20 to 30 pages of comics, somewhere in that vicinity mostly. That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a little crazy right now. I mean, I should probably be at home working.
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, because, think about it. Like, coloring is so important, and now everyone who's watching and tweeting at us or posting with the Marvel hashtag, now they get to know all about color,
Right.
It's pretty rad.
So Uncanny X-Men, that's now a weekly book, right? Does that make it even tougher for you?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And it's got, because you have Matt and Kelly and Ed, they just they're monsters to all their artists, and they just want to put every single character in there, and I adore all of 3 of them. I spent like an hour talking with them this week, so I adore them, but they're monsters. They put so many characters in their books. It's got to be even more stressful at times.
Yeah, group books are hard to do because of all the characters. You have to, if I'm not working with those characters all the time, I have to make sure I have the right reference for them, what their current costume is. All that stuff takes time. Before I was even offered Uncanny, I did the cover for it, and I saw that it was going to be, a weekly book, and in my head I'm like, they're going to offer this to me. I just have this feeling. And sure enough, here it is. So, yeah, as soon as I get back from New York, I will be full steam ahead.
Right on.
So in the meantime, where can we find your work?
I'm on Twitter at Rachelle Shuri. I have a website, www.rachellerosenberg.com. If you're here in New York this weekend, I'm in Artist Alley, table F5, right next to Todd Knock. So.
Awesome.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been rad.
Yeah, we. I think Artist Alley. I haven't been down there yet,
Same.
but I saw David Lopez, who is one of my favorite artists, but also like the sweetest man in the world. Like, saw him. I want to be able to go down and see all the stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool.
There are some great people here this weekend.
Yeah.
So, I haven't actually had a chance to walk around yet. I'm definitely going to because I am a fan too, and so there's a lot of people that I am very eager to meet. So.
Yeah. I wanted to ask what you have down there. You said you're next to Todd Knock, but for a fan who's not been to many comic conventions, what do they see you like with a table?
I have prints available. They're all Marvel covers that I've done. Some of them are with Todd Knock. I am doing a coloring commission, so I'll have fans bring in line art that they've had somebody else draw, and then I'll color them with Copic markers. So
That's neat.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I had no idea.